Aesthetic. A set of principles underlying and guiding the work of a particular artist or artistic movement. Tron. A 1982 sci-fi film about a computer programmer who is transported inside the software world of a mainframe computer where he interacts with programs to facilitate his escape. Tron Legacy, a 2010 sci-fi film. The sequel to Tron.
That's how you get ants!
Films have been showing the battle between humanity and technology since the 1950s, but it seems people's rage against the machines goes as far back as the 1600s. Yes, dear viewer, proto-science fiction existed with Shakespeare. Ugh, is there anything that guy didn't do? Anyway, typically Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is recognized as the first science fiction novel, and it features a mad scientist using advanced technology to reanimate a corpse, and humanity reacts poorly.
Burn already!
So ever since its beginning, science fiction has shown the human struggle against advancement, the human fear of obsolescence, and the human fear of our own creation destroying us. As technology has advanced in the real world, the settings and background of the fictional world have changed, but the story themes have stayed pretty much the same. Which brings us to 1982's Tron. Tron has sort of a cult following. It's a little weird. It gives consciousness to computer programs. They have feelings. Also, their physical representation in the computer is that of their programmer. In 1982, computers were for nerds. Seriously, guys, computers weren't really that user-friendly until Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Apple first brought the computer mouse technology to the personal computer in 1983, and it became popular after 1984. So saying 1982's Tron is ahead of its time is a bit of an understatement. Now that's the first movie. We're here to see if we can find anything nice to say about Tron Legacy.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
I had never seen the original Tron. I was born after it came out, and it was never really on my radar, so before watching the sequel, I watched the original on Disney+. Am I allowed to mention them by name? Something about Tron Legacy that struck me was the intensity of the visual aesthetic, and for good reason. We of course see all the light-enhanced clothing, but the harsh lighting extends to every character, every vehicle, all over the interior world of the grid. This movie is a remarkable achievement of lighting, set design, and graphic design. It establishes a black and white world where the bad guys are orange and the good guys are blue. The white may or may not be neutral. Even then, there are subtle differences in the shades of these colors. The way the programs are destroyed or de-resing is awesome. They just shatter, and it's a cool effect. I started with this point because I think this is the first point that will divide the audience. If you don't like the aesthetic, you will not like this movie. It is jarring and intense, and I loved it. Director Joseph Kosinski clearly had a visual idea for this film, and how could he be disappointed with the end product? This is an achievement. It's a work of art. That world is what I think of when I think of cyberpunk. Not all the credit goes to the visual effects. Sound design and soundtrack are so amazing in this movie. Check out this music drop when Sam Flynn first switches on the light cycle. This movie is operating on such a different level. Daft Punk did the soundtrack for this, and again, I think they did an outstanding job. I felt the light cycle scene on a gut level. The slow motion, the sound effects, the visual effects all scream pay attention. I think it's beautiful. I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a guess that some of the hatred leveled at this movie is because of the aesthetic. I think it's a love or hate thing. Tron Legacy doesn't waste much time in the real world. That's something I appreciate. We're not really here to see the people, we're here to see the computer stuff. We get enough to see that a few of the main players from the original movie are still around, but that's it. We have Alan, who is Tron's original programmer from the first movie, which is cool. The company Encom still exists, but has been headed by Andrew Flynn, Jeff Bridges' character, since the defeat of Dillinger and Dillinger's Master Control program. Dillinger's kid is now on the board of directors. This really is a legacy. Andrew Flynn has disappeared. His son Sam is the majority shareholder, but doesn't take much interest in having anything to do with the company. I thought it was a good fake out. Having just watched the first movie, I thought they were going to make it young Dillinger who was a bad guy somehow. and he is maybe a little bit of a bad guy, but he's not the movie's villain. Let's get into the meat of this, shall we? Tron Legacy is a heavy-handed religious allegory. It's about a creation rebelling against its creator and the son of the creator coming to redeem the creation. Sound familiar? It's Christianity. The themes of Christianity are pretty ubiquitous at this point. It's not the only story that has the creation rebelling themes, and actually the creation rebelling against its creator trope is almost exclusively how Western science fiction looks at technology. Jurassic Park, iRobot, Skynet, Otto the Autopilot, and WALL-E, The Island of Dr. Moreau, The Matrix, Planet of the Apes, DuckTales, Small Wonder. You better believe she was planning something. In Tron, the programs fight for the user. There is even a moment when the computer program Tron stands in a beam of light and receives a divine blessing from above. It's code provided by a human that will take down the master control program.
That's Tron, he fights for the users.
The allegory is palpable. In 1982, these self-aware programs were imagined to look at their programmers as gods. In 2010, our attitude towards artificial intelligence had evolved. The religious allegory shifts to a rebellious creation redemption story. There are some things I feel like I missed, and maybe some of that has to do with my lack of expertise with computers and coding. For instance, I feel like 1982's Tron was sort of an argument for net neutrality. Take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not sure I even understand the net neutrality debate to a certain extent, but let's look at what we have. Master Control, who was essentially a version of Chess Master that gained self-awareness, is gobbling up all the programs and taking over their power and function for himself. Master Control thinks that he can run the programs better than humans can. He makes some of these programs fight each other in games. I'm not really sure why. When he's defeated, the grid becomes a great and wonderful place where all the programs are free to carry out their lives and functions. Clue, the program Flynn creates to help him run the new grid in Tron Legacy, is basically doing the same thing. He wants to achieve perfection and believes he's the only one who can do it. His ultimate goal is to get to the portal that will allow Sam and Flynn to revert back to the real world. He wants to impose his vision of perfection outside of the grid. I'm not going to say that the plot is a strong point. Heavy religious allegories often get distracted by their own self-righteousness. Flynn has a moment with Clue when he admits that as a human he is imperfect, and Clue, as his program, shares the same imperfections. The moment is not big enough. At the same time, we only get to see a few glimpses of that part of the story. Tron is in the film, but he's a program that's been corrupted by Clue and now goes by Rinsler. He's able to break through his corruption but plunges into an ocean. The film had several moments where the trope no body, no death showed up, so I don't think he's really gone. I loved Michael Sheen as Zeus, though. It was Michael Sheen at his Michael Sheeniest. He seems to be one of those actors that has a hard time saying no to projects, and once he does a project, he throws himself all in. I mean, how does one guy go from Twilight Saga and Underworld to The Queen and Frost Nixon?
This is going to be quite a ride.
He's pretty great at what he does, and he's trying to channel some David Bowie here. He owns a nightclub. Daft Punk gets a cameo, which is great. The programs stand and look at the light that indicates the portal to the outside is open. Flynn Sr. always wanted them to know when he was there. He is a god in this world, and not all the programs look at him as a benevolent one. I like that some of the programs, even the good ones, expressed contempt about Flynn. He has seemingly abandoned them to Clue. Worst, Clue is his creation. He created the thing that terrorizes, corrupts, or flat out destroys them. No wonder they don't believe in the user anymore. There's also some subplot about a group of programs called the ISOs, or isomorphic algorithms, that just appeared on the grid. They have no user, they have no creator. My guess was that they were sort of ghosts in the machine. I have no idea what the point of this was. I mean, spontaneous life in the context of a computer data center is pretty crazy, and Flynn Sr. has all these wild ideas about how they are miracles and they can solve all of humanity's problems, but I basically just ignored that part of the movie. They don't matter much because Clue genocides them. The only remaining one is Olivia Wilde's character. It makes Wilde a MacGuffin because she's the last one remaining alive. I guess there's something complicated about digitizing people and using the ISO's technology and DNA as a way to basically hack human DNA and fix them and then return them to the real world, but that seems like a plot for another day. I don't know, maybe it's something a potential sequel was going to delve into. I'm not sure why Tron Legacy gets so much hate. It's not perfect, but it's not bad either. If you want to take Tron Legacy for a test drive before you fully commit, you should listen to Daft Punk's soundtrack and watch the light cycle scene, the discourse scene, and the fight scene at Michael Sheen's bar. I get why they called it Tron Legacy, but maybe they should have called it Tron Upgrade or Tron 2.0 or some such. I may not watch Tron Legacy again and again, but there were definitely some parts of the movie that are absolutely stunning and beautiful. If you already have a membership with a certain streaming platform that shall not be named, maybe you should check it out. If you start watching movies with more of an open mind, you will see around the flaws and might find yourself enjoying something you never thought you would. Join us next time on Anything Nice to Say, wash your hands, stay at home, and never be ashamed to like what you like. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You know how to do that by now. Leave a comment if you want me to check out a movie you think is underappreciated, or tell me a movie you've never seen because you heard it was bad. You can check out our merch store and look us up on Patreon.